ZBTR TV presents Conversations with Mhambi.
Empowering the future, strengthening democracy, and building a vibrant civic culture among Zambia's youth.
Tune in every third Saturday of the month as I host young, vibrant Zambian guests discussing matters of national interest. Good morning and welcome to Conversations with Mhambi, where Zambia's young voices share ideas that shape our nation's future. I'm your host, Mhambi Musonda.
Happy Saturday, everyone. We're so grateful to have you again here on ZBTR TV for another special. As you know, we have been in a semi-series. We've been discussing topics of civic engagement with a bunch of young leaders, and today we have a special show entitled Young Minds National Vision, Kennedy Mulenga's Vision for Zambia. Mr. Kennedy Mulenga is a college student, he's a student lawyer, and he is a student politician involved in civic engagement. He is a young mind, and he has a vision. We connected on social media, I believe it was a month ago or so. And since then, we have had a relationship, and I've been able to talk with him. He's been able to talk with me. We're going to have him on. He is involved in a bevy of activities, not only on campus, but also in the political arena. And I am happy to have him on today. So please welcome Kennedy Mulenga to the show. Mr. President.
Comrade, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for doing this, and thank you for being patient with me before when we were having some technical difficulties.
All right, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you very, very much. I didn't want to go through. I had a bio of yours, but I didn't want to read it because I think I'll let you do it. So just tell our viewers who Kennedy Mulenga is.
All right, thank you so much, Comrade, and once again, I appreciate for having me. So Kennedy Mulenga is a young, humble gentleman. Of course, he's a student of law, as illustrated by Kennedy is passionate about law, politics, and governance, and he is a son of Mr. and Mrs. Mulenga, who is a resident of Garden House, Lusaka.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So you've already explained who you are, but tell us some of the titles that you have. I didn't want to say everything. You're very involved on student government, of course, in your pursuits, the intersections of politics, law, and civic engagement. So tell us some of the things that you do at school and outside of school. I don't want to share it yet, but I know that you're part of you're part of an alliance with some youth folks who are running for president. So tell us who you are in school and outside of school.
All right. So in school, I'm part of the Student Union Council Executive, where I serve as the minister responsible for information and media. Last year, I was also serving as a vice president of our law association. So those are some of the leadership roles that I've had before in school. Outside school, Kennedy Mulenga is, of course, a patriotic Zambian citizen who has a great interest in politics. I love interacting with friends. I love interacting and just socializing with new people. And of course, interacting with politicians who are people that I find to be very inspiring because of my interests in politics and governance.
That is wonderful. So my first question is, what inspired your interest in politics?
All right. So I think I would say it all started with education. In 2022, I was still doing my high school level. I was in grade 11. And I add civic education as an option. Civic education is that subject that deals with a lot of, civic relations, where we get to learn about governance and all other things. So there was this topic called the Zambian legal system. So after studying that topic, I came to understand the system of governance. I came to understand, some of the roles that our different arms and institution of governance play. So I can say my interest for politics all started from there. It's a thing where when you understand something better, you would want to get involved in it.
Yes. Yes, yes, I like
Yes,
that.
yes, yes,
When you understand something better, you want to get involved in it. Um,
exactly.
how has your upbringing sort of shaped your vision for leadership? Most people are shaped by, especially in politics. You talked about how you fell in love with politics and public service in your civic education class in grade 11. Um,
Mhm.
but how has your personal upbringing sort of informed your understanding of public service and of politics?
All right, so Comrade Mambi, I have grown up in a family where we believe in leadership. I've grown up in a family where my father is somebody that is very much committed when it comes to community service. Of course, he is not a politician, he is not any public figure, but he's just somebody that is so passionate also about public service. So growing up in such, an environment, it kept me, being that person that learns a lot from my parents. They say that charity begins at home. I also subscribe to the view that even leadership itself begins at home. And
Yeah.
being one of the eldest citizen, being one of the eldest sibling, in my family, sometimes when my parents are unavailable, I always take up that responsibility to be able to oversee, family affairs. It's like my father believes in me a lot, and he delegates his, authority of being the overseer of family affairs on me. So that has given me, that passion to even extend my leadership skills that I've gained at home, into also public service, so that I can be the people's servant and be able to lead masses, not just at home, but also in the public service.
I like that. Charity begins at home. Leadership begins also at home. You almost said you were the
Yeah.
oldest citizen. I was like, yeah. Makula. Um,
Yeah.
so you talked about that. I'm curious about you're also someone of faith, and I think of course as Zambia has proclaimed itself to be a Christian nation, and we can have like a whole discussion on what does that really mean,
Mhm.
and really are politicians really exhibiting that example. Um,
Mhm.
but how has your faith informed your thinking about leadership, about you talked about public service? It's your father who did a lot of work in community service, you also being a sibling, those different
Mhm.
aspects. But how has faith informed your thinking of leadership?
All right. First of all, I'd love to place it on record that I'm someone that believes in the Christian faith. And as Christians, we are guided by the Bible. It is like it's the Christian statutes that we have, and most of the times we follow what the scriptures say. And as Christians, the Bible tells us that we need to be honest, in everything that we do. So I believe that that also extends to us when we start buying leadership laws. So I would say pillars of Christianity, like qualities of being honest, qualities of being responsible as a leader. Those are some of the qualities that I subscribe to, and I can say by that on its own, that is how my faith, like influences or informs my leadership style as a Christian believer.
I like that. I like that. So as we head into our conversation, I sort of want to begin with the topic youth and the 2026 elections. I know today is nominating day, the presidential nomination week, I believe. President
Exactly.
is going to nominate, I believe, around this time. I haven't checked my social media, but I believe that he is at Mulenga'S at the time of this recording. So when this comes out on Saturday, he will already have filed his papers. But we're in a very crucial election, and I sort of want to hear, some of your thinkings on our election, on what are your thoughts on it? I know that you, I think it's fair to say that, you're supportive of the Tonse Alliance. But before we get there, why do you think it is important for young people just to care about this election? I know, politics is for old people, elections are for old people. I mean, before we get into those, party questions, and I want to sort of ask you your thoughts on that. As someone who's involved and you've interacted with these politicians, before we get to the partisan questions, why do you think that youth participation in this election is important?
All right. First of all, we need to understand that the largest part of our Zambian population is youth, and it is really important for us as youths to be able to care about elections, to be able to care about the governance of our country, because at the end of the day, all the decisions that are being made at national level, all the decisions that are made, at local level, they will affect us as the youths or as the young people. So it is really imperative that we remain concerned. It is important to care about elections and governance as the young people, because most of the decisions that are made by our people who occupy these public offices will affect us and our interests. It is therefore important for us to always ensure that we are concerned and caring about these arrangements.
Wonderful, wonderful. I just want to announce that the president did file his papers, and he's with his running mate, the vice president. So he did not switch running mates. I know there was debate over whether he would switch running mates, but he's filed his papers, and Vice President Nalumango is still his running mate. So I just wanted to announce that. Beyond voting, you're very familiar with this because you've said it in your opening that you are involved as a young person, interacting with politicians, the stuff you do at school, law association. Beyond voting, I mean, what in your thinkings and of your observation of politics as a young person, what does meaningful youth participation look like after August 2026?
All right. So youth participation after 2026. I think I would love to state that youth participation in politics extends beyond just voting. Of course, after this year's general election, everyone would have voted, all the young people would have participated in the voting process, but it also extends to that. Sometimes it may be in form of maybe engaging in peaceful protests or demonstrations. We may find that maybe the government that is in authority may make some proposals or amendments to the laws of the country, let's say the constitution. So, and sometimes it may happen that certain provisions that can be proposed may not sit well with the youth, may not sit well with the citizens of the country. Through participation in peaceful demonstrations, that is one way of participating beyond just taking part or being able to participate in the voting process of the country. Sometimes it also happens through just civic participation. Sometimes we hear government institutions, government officials, or just stakeholders where they call upon people to make maybe submissions when it comes to amendments of the laws. So all that is one way of being able to participate, politically, aside from just, voting in an election like the elections that we have in this year.
Mm.
Mhm.
Social media is a large part of how communication, political communication, is transmitted these days. In American politics, people used to use television, the radio. President Obama Barack Obama, President Obama, and I think President Trump sort of transformed how we receive political communication through social media. Um, Also in Zambia, we know that, if you want to receive political news,
Mhm.
you can watch, ZNBC, you can watch Diamond TV, you can watch Crown, KBN, but social media is how we receive our political awareness, right? There's so many pages, Mwibantu, Kalembe, all of them.
Mhm.
So is social media, in your opinion, helping or harming youth political awareness?
Oh, all right. I would say it is helping. At the same time, or in other ways, it may also be harming depending on how you make use of it. But just to start by speaking on the helping, aspect, I believe it's really helpful because most of the times, political information, as you illustrated, is mostly, shared on social
Mm,
media. Even myself, as someone interested in politics, most of
yeah,
the information that I get is
social media.
via social media. So I would say it's really helping, and we just must ensure that we follow the appropriate pages. We follow, credible pages that act as sources of information, so that we can prevent ourselves from misinformation. Then I think on the aspect of harming, it may be harmful when we maybe we try to interact with social media. Then we find that the information that we may get sometimes may not be reliable. We get access to information that is unverifiable. Then we try and rely on it. That in that way, it can be, harming. So I just thought that I can address all the aspects, since I said, in my opinion, it can either be helpful, at the same time it can be harming.
Mm. So you're a student leader. I'm sure you've had to campaign, or you've had to, ask people to support you or vote for you. We're less than 100 days from an election. As a young person observing, what should young leaders prioritize when choosing their political leaders?
All right. So it is important, of course, to prioritize something when it comes to choosing leaders. So first of all, I think it is important to be able to understand the person's, personality before we get to choose them. We must be able to understand, like, what are some of the qualities that this person, subscribes to. For example, we can talk of qualities like integrity. Is this person upright and honest in whatever that this person does? So it is important here to understand that. The other thing, I think we must also be able to look at the person's competence when it comes to the performance of that role that someone may be expected to do when they are in leadership. We must be able to ask ourselves: is this person able to do this job that they want to enter in? Do they have the requisite abilities that would be necessary for them to lead effectively? Aside that, I think it is also important to consider the person's vision. At the end of the day, one wants to be led by somebody that doesn't have a vision. Of course, they must be able to take a team that one may be leading forward. So I think those are some of the things that I can point out that we should prioritize as young people when it comes to choosing our leaders.
So, to that point of choosing our leaders, we're less than 100 days from the election. I sort of want to hear your thoughts on, the current political landscape. Obviously, you're on the ground as a leader. What do you think, talking to some of your friends, what is the sense on the ground on who to support, or what are your thoughts, or what are your friends' thoughts as a young person? What are their thoughts on the upcoming election and the candidates who are running for president?
All right, so of course everyone has a different opinion of what we are seeing now, where we are hearing some of our friends are saying the current government or the current the President Hakainde Hichilema, others are subscribing to the view that he has no competitor. We are hearing, our friends saying there is no opposition, but I think we must be able to also understand that sometimes elections can be unpredictable. I think when we try and look back, what happened in 2021, I don't think we had people that even expected that former President Edgar Lungu would have been defeated, but obviously it happened. So I think for me, I'm just looking forward to the announcement of results after after this year's general election, because at the end of the day, we may not know, what people want. And concerning the presidential candidates that we have, I think it's up to everyone's choice to choose who to support. I think we can also try to put into consideration some of the insights that the area shared as to what we need to prioritize when it comes to, the choosing or making of choices of whom to support in an election, especially a very important election like the one that we are having, which is the presidential, election.
I like that answer. It won't get you in trouble. That's a very, very good answer. You have to keep it, you got to keep it on the straight line, so it won't get you in trouble with anybody.
Yeah.
I enjoy your answer. And yeah, as you said, just as someone who observes politics, you just like to see how different politicians, interact, even if you don't agree with them. As someone who's
Exactly.
observing, you're interacting, you're watching, okay, this is what they do, this is what they don't do. So when you're there, you'll do, things different. So I like that answer. Our next segment is called Law, Politics, and Governance. So these are up your alley. What do you think, or rather, I'll ask you this question: are young people adequately prepared for national leadership?
Are young people adequately prepared?
For national
Yes,
leadership?
they.
You're prepared because you have a resume, right? But other people may not be, as prepared for civic leadership. So, in your opinion, are young people, adequately prepared?
All right. Yes, I believe that young people, are prepared. I think mostly we've been subjected to, being sidelined, where we, hear our friends who have already, being able to occupy these leadership, positions, especially the elders, we hear them saying, no, we are inexperienced and we are not ready to lead. But I would like to subscribe to a different opinion that young leaders adequately ready indeed for public leadership. I can give an example of myself. I strongly believe that I am ready because I've been following, I've been following these conversations. I've been following whatever that is happening. I've kept on learning from people who have come, before us. We have interactions with them. We have conversations with them. Whatever that is happening, we are following closely. So I believe we have learned enough, and that makes me believe ready for public leadership and service.
I like that. I like that. I'm reminded of, one thing I enjoy is learning from others, and, good leaders, effective leaders, learn from others. I think it was Michael Jackson who actually said this. He said, study the greats and become greater. There's the story of Bill Clinton, who became president in the United States. I think he was around 16 years old when he met then President John Kennedy. He was involved, like you, in student leadership. So they went to the White House one day. He shook his hand, and that's how Clinton, developed an interest in politics. So he was, throughout his undergraduate, when he was in college, he was in student government. I think they said that he was running for so many positions, they banned him. They said, you run too much. You can't even, like, okay, let's stop. But it was that training that he had in his schooling years that prepared him for politics. And eventually, of course, we know that he became president of the United States. So your emphasis on, how your current leadership and what you said in the beginning, how your background, has formed you, and how your current, placement as a student leader is forming you, I think is very indicative that national leadership formation comes in various ways. It's not the same. It comes in various ways. So I really like and appreciate your answer. You said you're also a patriotic Zambian. Zambia turns 61 in, oh my gosh, no, wait, we turned 62 in, I believe.
62, yeah.
Oh my goodness, see, that's how you know I'm tired. 62 in October. So we're pretty young country compared to America that turns 250, but most African countries, I believe, are under the age of 100. So most African countries are young. How important is, I'll ask you two questions. So the first part is, how important is patriotism in nation building or building a nation? How important is that?
All right, so patriotism is important, in national building, because when somebody is patriotic, they will always have that sense of responsibility to be able to contribute to a country's development. Patriotism entails that citizens of a country must love their country, and I subscribe to the view that when someone loves their country, they may be willing to do anything for the benefit of their country. So it may be in terms of contribution to a country's national development, and ensuring that whatever that they do in that particular country should not only be able to serve their interests, but also the interest of their fellow citizens in that country. So that's how important patriotism can be in national development.
And do you think, or how can leaders like you, how can you revitalize a sense of patriotism and nationalism among Zambia's youth? I know there's, for example, schools are teaching, there's a debate on whether schools should teach in the local language, vernacular language, as an example. So how can, young people, young Zambians sort of become more patriotic?
All right, so I think it can all start from the conversations that we have when we are interacting with our colleagues as young people. We must be able to be making our friends aware that they have a role to play. They must love their country, and they must be able to contribute to its development, in one or two ways. We need to have that mindset of being able to think that as citizens of the country, we have a duty to contribute to our nation's development, and that can only start with us as the youths in any place, in whatever places where we can be it in schools, be it maybe at church, or even just in our homes. These are conversations that I think we must cherish. We must be able to impact that knowledge. If it comes to parents, they must be able to impact that knowledge into their children, that they have a responsibility to contribute to, a country's development. So I think it can start with us if we try and change, when it comes to some of the conversations that we have, if we can keep, talking about patriotism, making it understandable to our colleagues that may not be aware of it. In that way, we can ensure that patriotism is promoted, at every level of our country.
Sure. And as a additional question, sort of in that same sort of sphere, how can young people contribute to national development, and how have you, in your leadership, how have you tried to ensure that young people contribute to national development?
All right, so contributing to national development by the youth can come in various ways. I think sometimes it can be through civic participation. I'll try and give an example. For example, like just Aida stated, a country may make some maybe proposals to amendments to the laws that may govern a country. We can be able to contribute to national development maybe through making submissions with regards to the laws that may, be proposed for amendment, because all that adds to the running in the administration of, a country's affairs. Aside from civic participation, sometimes it can even be through entrepreneurship. When youths are involved, in entrepreneurship, they can be able to maybe establish viable businesses that may in turn even be able to make job opportunities for other youths. In that way, they may even be able to contribute to the development of the country. Then aside that, also just through participation, in public governance. I love it that I'm seeing most youths are now expressing interest in trying to be part of the leadership, of this country. So through, being able to participate in national leadership, or those examples are ways in which, us the young people can be able to contribute to national development.
I think it is fair to say that you are a part of the emerging class of Zambian leaders that will shape, the next 100 years. What qualities should define Zambia's next generation of civic leaders?
First of all, I think one important quality is the quality of patriotism. Of course, someone must be patriotic if they can be able to contribute to a country's development through leadership. It must not always just be about what is it that my country can do for me, but we must be able to ask ourselves questions as young leaders: what is it that I can be able to do for my country? Integrity is another quality that our next generation of leaders should have. We must be honest in everything that we do, especially when it comes to leadership, because leadership which is based on lies cannot take any country forward. So we must be patriotic. We must have integrity. We must be loyal to the people that we serve and also our country. Then also we must have that sense of responsibility. We must just be expected to do what we are expected to do without being forced, told those or supervised. So those are some of the qualities that I think, the next generation of our leaders should be able to possess.
So the title of this is Young Minds National Vision, Kennedy Mulenga's vision for Zambia. What kind of vision should your generation build? What kind of Zambia do you want your generation to build?
All right, so I would love my generation to build a united Zambia. I would love to see a Zambia that is united, because we can only be able to develop as a country if we unite, if we put all our heads together. We must not be causing division amongst ourselves, especially politicians are the ones that mostly cause division even amongst ourselves because they want to use, things like religion for gaining political mileage. They would want to use ethnicity or tribes in order for them to, gain political mileage. So I think if we can stand against that as youths, we must build a united Zambia because we are only strong as a country when we remain united. Aside that, I would also want to see the young people build a Zambia that is going to be economically sovereign. We should not just be socially sovereign where we're able to govern ourselves, but we should also be economically sovereign where, as a country, we're going to be able to produce all the goods and services that we may, need as a country. Even when it comes to borrowing, I think as a country we have quite a number of resources, of which if we can just make proper utilization of them, we can even stop being a country that can be too reliant on borrowing. So I think those are just some of the few things that I can point out to as regards to what Zambia would I want to see, or would I want our generation to
Sure.
build.
What are the biggest obstacles, in your opinion, to the progress, the vision that you've stated? What are the biggest obstacles for the next generation?
I think the biggest obstacle, I would just say it's leadership, because we must be able to understand that leaders of a country are the ones that drive the vision of the country forward. So if we have leaders that understand their role, if we have competent leaders, I think as a country we can be, able to drive forward. We must have leaders that know their role. At the end of the day, it is these leaders that occupy our public offices that are responsible for the welfare of the people. So I would say one obstacle, to governance is leadership. So if we can change our leadership style, if we can have leaders that do not only come into the public service to serve their personal interests, we must have leaders that will come into leadership to serve the interests of the people.
I like that. I like that. Having an interest in the people is, I think, the undergirding of our politics. You have to have a love for people. You just can't be in public service just for the sake of ambition. So, as we begin to sort of, wind down our conversation, I still have some questions left, so I won't leave you off the hook. But I'm curious, you're a very busy, person. You're involved, in the community. You're involved as a student leader. How do you maintain or remain grounded under pressure? Because as you said, you're preparing for a life of public service. You're preparing for a life in politics and in the law and in governance. And there will be pressure, or there's already pressure. You're young, you're involved in politics. How do you remain principled under political pressure? People saying, "Oh, do this, oh, do that. This will help you along the way. Hey, if you do this, it'll, you'll be okay, in 20, 30 years when you run for office or something." How do you maintain your values in a dirty game?
All right. I think what is important is just to ensure that you of course stay grounded in the values that you subscribe to, or the values that you uphold. I'll give, for example, hard work. If you're somebody that believes in hard work, you will be able to ensure that you work even under difficult circumstances in order to just be able to accomplish the goals that you may put in place. I think also trying to surround yourself with peers, with proper mentors can also help you stay, focused and grounded regardless of the pressure that you may be subjected to. I just earlier stated that we learn from the people that have come, before us. So sometimes if you're under pressure, we can even try to seek, guidance from the people that have been in the public service, those that also started when they were just young, and how they were able to navigate, all the pressure that may come with being part of public leadership.
Who inspires you as someone who's interested in looking toward a political career? Obviously, you and I, we both know young man Lushomo Hamahwa in Choma, who's running for mayor, and I believe he's 21. And that's someone that we look up to. There's Kangombe, who's Honorable Kangombe, who's recently retiring from elected office. Young people that we can look up to. Who do you look up to in your personal journey?
All right, so I'm even glad that you mentioned Kangombe, because Honorable Christopher Kangombe, the recent former member of parliament for Kamfisa, is someone that is someone that inspires me a lot. Now, why does he inspire me? See, Christopher Kangombe is somebody that has passion for public service and public leadership, which is something that I also have interest and passion, passionate about. So he's someone that I get inspiration from. When you look at his political life, he's also somebody that just started politics when he was just young. He started with student leadership. Then therefore we had to transfer into a public leadership. So he's someone that inspires me a lot. He makes me believe that even now my dreams are valid too.
Yes,
so he's someone that
your dreams are valid. I like that. Honorable Abesu. Your dreams are valid. I like that. Your dreams are valid. I guess that sort of takes me to my next question. Sort of, personal question, personal reflection question. But what motivates you to keep pushing forward? Because I said before, politics is, especially when you're trying to build a career in politics at a young age, as you know, it can be very, difficult. So you really have to be persistent in, you have to put yourself out there. You have to go to events, even if you're introvert, like you have to just take that off. And you have to really push yourself, because if you want to be a leader of the people, you have to be amongst the people. So what keeps you motivated? What keeps you pushing? What keeps that whisper in your ear, telling you, Kennedy, pursue that vision? What is it that keeps you going?
All right. I think first of all, I have a dream for success. At the end of the day, all these things that I dream about, that person that I aspire to be, if I don't put in the effort myself, then I don't think I can be able to achieve that. At the end of the day, it is me that is responsible for my growth. It is me that is responsible for the achievement of my dreams. So I think my dream for success is what keeps me, going every day. It is what keeps me motivated every day. I believe in myself, and I always tell myself to say, you are equal to the dreams that you have, and it is on you that can make whatever dreams that you have come true. So I think that is like the thing that is inside of me that keeps on motivating me and keeps on making me go forward each and every day when I wake up.
I enjoy that. I really resonate with that you are responsible for your growth. You are responsible for the life that you want to live. You are responsible for the type of person that you want to become. My next question is, what habits help you stay focused and disciplined? Again, you're a leader in school and out of school. So how what habits have you, sort of built into your life that help you keep you focused?
The first thing that I would love to point out is through prayer. Prayer helps me stay focused. I talk to God. I tell Him to guide me through in whatever that I do. So I believe that prayer is something that really helps me to stay, focused. Of course, I'm a Christian, and I believe that when I tell God that this is what I want, when I tell God to say, please make me somebody that is going to be focused with everything that I do, I pray for God's guidance. So that is one of the things that keeps me focused. The other thing is surrounding myself with the appropriate company. Even the Bible says that bad character destroys good morals. So I ensure that even the people that I interact with are the people whose interests align with mine. I ensure that I, build friendship that inspire growth. I build friendships, that will keep me going and always, motivated. So I think those are some of the things that, help me stay focused and also, yeah, to keep going forward. Yeah.
So my last two questions as we begin to wind down is, I think it's fair to say that once you're finished with your formative education, I think it's fair to say that you're probably going to pursue a career in politics. I think we
Yes,
all,
yes, yes.
it's very evident in my discussion with you, even in my observation of you. You
Yes, yes.
in a tie, and I'm just in a shirt. So
Yeah,
I think it's evident that politics is in your horizon. Um,
exactly.
what do you aspire? Where's the highest that you want to go? Obviously, a good politician won't say where, but I have a feeling that maybe State House is in your future. But what are your political aspirations, sort of after you're finished with school?
All right, so I think very soon I'll be done with school. So obviously I would go for the topmost job because I believe I'll still be not qualified and eligible. Even my age, my age already will disqualify me. So I think I first aspire to be a member of parliament where I get to be the MPL gets to represent the interests of the people in my constituency. But after all that, after time, goes on, the main aim is the presidency. That's the
In
aim, the
time.
president.
In time. That's why we have called you Mr. President. In time,
Yeah,
President Mulenga. So you've heard it here first that we have a potential future president in our midst. In time. In time. In time.
yeah.
Um, as someone who, as you said, is an aspiring politician, you talked about growth, professional growth. What about, intellectual growth? I'm curious, what are your thoughts? I mean, I have this opinion, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I personally feel like our caliber of politicians are not as intellectual, and that does not mean having a degree, because you can be intellectual without a college education. I think that, let me just state that. But I feel like our politicians are not of the best caliber. I mean, they should be, right? I mean, they should be I mean, you want to, in my opinion, and maybe you'll agree with this, but if I'm a voter, I want someone who is the best and the brightest in office. Even if you don't have a degree, you should have some sort of knowledge. So, as someone who is aspiring to be an elected official, where do you place your intellectual growth? Schooling and obviously outside of school, but how have you fed your intellectual appetite as someone who wants to become a elected official?
All right. If I've gotten your question clearly, Comrade Mambi, I just believe in continuous learning. I also
Mm,
subscribe to the view that even as we aspire for these elective positions, our intellectual mindset also must be of a certain caliber, as you have stated. So I believe in continuous learning. I keep in investing in myself. I study everything that I need to know so that I just can be, ready for becoming the person that I aspire to be. I think that is also the reason why I decided to study the law. The nature of the law is that it is like it is the one that regulates almost everything that happens in the country. When we talk of the maybe the health sector, we have pieces of legislation like the Public Health Act, which are the laws that govern those respective sectors. So I believe that pursuing law studies will give me that understanding of all these governance systems. But I'm not saying law is powerful too when it comes to public leadership, but I'm just trying to give it as an example, in the way in which I believe it needs to be very powerful too when it comes to public leadership. So I subscribe to the same view as yours, and that is the reason why I keep on learning every day. I seize every learning opportunity that comes my way.
Oftentimes, the best leaders, and if we can just look at political leaders, oftentimes the best political leaders are those who are well-rounded. Nkrumah, Kaunda, Nyerere. You can even look at Thomas Jefferson. You look at some of the philosophers who have shaped Western, thought. Our Pan-African philosophers who have shaped our African roots um, are oftentimes what there's a common thread is that they were all well-read, well-rounded, intellectual people like you who committed themselves to continuous learning. That learning does not stop after you get a degree. It continues after you get the degree because I believe that learning does not stop until God calls you home. Even after, we die, I'm sure we'll be learning in heaven.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
it does not stop. My final question is, what sort of legacy, maybe this is too big, but I don't think so. You're capable because you have already articulated clearly. As someone who wants to commit your life to serving others, which I think is very noble, and you've said it before, it comes from your roots, not just religious roots, but also in your family. You want to commit your life to serving others, which is, something that's very admirable. You're basically saying, not me, it's about you. You're sacrificing
Exactly.
yourself. As someone who wants to do that in politics, in the law, in governance, but you're serving others, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind as a public servant?
All right, so I hope to leave a legacy that will be defined by patriotism. I would want to leave a legacy that will be defined by that love, that excess love for one's country. I would
Mm,
love to be remembered as somebody that was willing to serve for the benefit of the all Zambian citizens. So that is something that I would love to be remembered for, and that is the only legacy that I would want to leave. A legacy that would be defined by absolute love for my country, for my fellow Zambian citizens.
mm,
Yes.
Young minds, yeah, national vision, Kennedy Mulenga's vision for Zambia. Mr. President, thank you so much for agreeing to this. I think we've had a very fantastic and enlightening conversation. Any last words you would like to share with us before we go?
All right. I think I would just love to share this with everyone that may be listening, everyone that may be viewing this. That let's just keep believing, in ourselves. Let's keep pushing. Let's continue learning every day. Let's ensure that we let's ensure that we become, useful citizens, to our country, so that we can contribute in whatever way possible to the development of this country.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mr. President. Again, thank you very much for sharing your vision for Zambia. And I look forward, when I come back to Zambia, I'll make sure to come and see you.
Yeah.
And we look forward in about 10 years or so, 10, 15 years, you'll come back and we'll be interviewing you as an aspiring candidate for parliament. And then 20 years after that,
Yeah.
you'll come to America delivering the address before the UN as the president of Zambia. So we look forward to your interactions. We look forward to watching you grow. Our prayers are with you as a student. May you continue to excel, and our prayers are with you as someone who is aspiring to pursue a career in politics. That may God go before you, and may you be reminded that you're not only serving your God yourself, you're serving God, and you're serving, most importantly, you're serving his people through the arena of politics. So, Mr. President, we appreciate you for coming on. Don't be a stranger, so hopefully we can get you back. Maybe we can even get you back after the elections in August so you can talk about the results. So we hope to see you then.
Yes. Thank you so much. Also, Comrade Mambi, for hosting me. I'm very delighted, and I don't take this opportunity for granted. I also appreciate the vote of confidence that you've placed in me and the recognition that you're already giving me in advance, addressing me as Mr. President. That on its own is a motivation already on its own that will keep me going, and I appreciate that so much. And once again, thank you so much for having me.
You are very welcome. Thank you so much, my brother. We appreciate it.
All right.
So that was our show today. We thank you very much for watching and tuning in to our Saturday special, Young Minds, National Vision, Kennedy Mulenga's Vision for Zambia. This is what our show is about. And of course, I would like to thank Pastor Nathan again for extending this opportunity to me. I think we're coming up on a year since I first started, and this is what it's about. It's about showing the diaspora, showing our community that there is hope for our country, that there is hope for our people. I think it is in the book of Ezekiel when he said, "Is there any hope in this dry land?" So there is hope, and I hope during this conversation you have been inspired, that you have been enlightened. This is someone who is in university, he is in college, and he is already pursuing a national vision. He is involved, as he said, in student government and the Law Association. He is involved in his community, and he has already interacted with elected officials. He has been able to attend different events in Zambia that have allowed him to build a network of people supporting him. So this is what it's all about. Thank you very much for watching our show today. We look forward to seeing you next week. Pastor Nathan will be back next week in the chair, and we look forward to seeing him, and we look forward to seeing you. Please make sure that you share, you watch, you subscribe to ZBTR TV. Thank you very much, and see you next week.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.